In the cold silence of deep space, the exploration vessel Pioneer Dawn drifted quietly through a region rarely visited by human ships. Its crew of 6 was small but skilled, each member chosen for their expertise and ability to handle the unknown. Captain Ryan Carter stood on the bridge, his sharp eyes scanning the rows of monitors before him. The ship's sensors hummed softly as they swept the area, searching for anything unusual. It was supposed to be a routine mission, charting stars, mapping planets, and gathering data about the galaxy's unexplored corners. But space had a way of throwing surprises at those who dared to venture too far. Today, it came in the form of a faint signal that crackled over the ship's comm system. At first, it was barely noticeable, just static mixed with bursts of noise. But then, something emerged from the chaos. A voice, weak and distorted, calling for help. Attention. Any vessels nearby. Emergency. Coordinates. The message cut out repeatedly, making it hard to understand. Still, enough pieces came through to grab the crew's attention. Dr. Laura Bennett, the ship's xenobiologist, leaned forward in her seat, her brow furrowed. "That sounds like a distress call," she said, her voice tinged with concern. "We can't just ignore it." Captain Carter frowned. He didn't like the idea of deviating from their planned route, especially not in this part of space. This sector was infamous for its dangers: pirates, unstable energy fields, and planets so hostile they earned the nickname Death Worlds. But the rules were clear. If someone was in trouble, you helped them. It wasn't just protocol. It was humanity's way of showing compassion in the vast emptiness of the cosmos. The signal repeated itself, and this time, navigator Megan Hayes managed to extract some of the coordinates embedded within the transmission. She typed furiously at her console, cross-referencing the numbers with the ship's star charts. When she finally looked up, her expression was grim. "If these coordinates are accurate, the signal is coming from a planet deep in the Red Veil cluster," she said. "That area's practically a no-fly zone." Alex Monroe, the ship's engineer, let out a low whistle. "Great, just what we needed. A trip into pirate territory." His tone was sarcastic, but there was no mistaking the worry behind his words. Everyone on board knew the risks of heading into such a dangerous region. Yet, no one argued when Carter gave the order to change course. As the Pioneer Dawn adjusted its trajectory, the atmosphere on the bridge grew tense. Questions hung heavy in the air. Who had sent the distress signal? Were they still alive? And why would anyone be in such a treacherous part of space in the first place? For now, all they could do was wait and hope the source of the call was worth the risk. Hours passed as the ship pushed deeper into the Red Veil cluster. Strange phenomena began to occur almost immediately. Lights flickered across the control panels, and the hum of the engine seemed to waver unpredictably. Even the stars outside the viewport appeared dimmer, obscured by swirling clouds of cosmic dust. Alex worked tirelessly to keep the system stable, muttering under his breath about how nothing ever went smoothly. Finally, the planet came into view, a jagged sphere covered in dark, rocky terrain and surrounded by a halo of debris. It looked unwelcoming, even from orbit. But somewhere down there, someone, or something, was waiting for rescue. As the crew prepared to land, Captain Carter couldn't shake the feeling that this mission would test them in ways they couldn't yet imagine. The Pioneer Dawn descended through the planet's thick atmosphere, its hull groaning under the strain of turbulence. The rocky surface below was a maze of jagged cliffs, deep canyons, and fields of debris scattered like broken toys. Captain Ryan Carter gripped the armrests of his chair as the ship shuddered violently. "Steady," he called out to Megan Hayes, who was struggling to maintain control from the pilot's seat. Her hands moved quickly over the controls, adjusting thrusters and stabilizers to keep the vessel on course. "Gravity's stronger than expected," Megan muttered, her voice tight with concentration. "And there's interference all over the place. I'm doing my best, but this is going to be rough." Alex Monroe, the ship's engineer, hovered near the rear of the bridge, monitoring the ship's systems. His face was pale, and sweat beaded on his forehead. "Shields are holding, for now," he said. "But if we hit anything big, we're done for." Dr. Laura Bennett stood nearby, clutching a handrail as the ship rocked again. She wasn't trained for piloting or engineering, but her mind raced with possibilities. What could have caused such chaos on this planet? And why would anyone send a distress signal from here? The questions gnawed at her, but she knew answers wouldn't come until they landed. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the Pioneer Dawn touched down in a relatively flat area near the largest cluster of debris. The engines powered down, leaving an eerie silence in their wake. For a moment, no one spoke. They simply sat there, catching their breath and taking in the alien landscape outside the viewport. The ground was barren and gray, littered with chunks of metal and strange crystalline formations that glinted faintly in the dim light. "Let's gear up," Carter said finally, breaking the quiet. "We need to find the source of that signal fast. Stay alert. This place doesn't feel safe." The team suited up in their environmental suits, checking oxygen levels and communication devices before stepping onto the surface. The air outside was thin and toxic, forcing them to rely entirely on their suits' life support systems. As they moved toward the debris field, the crunch of gravel beneath their boots echoed eerily in the stillness. It was unnaturally quiet, without even the sound of wind or distant wildlife. The only noise came from their own movements and the occasional crackle of static in their earpieces. It didn't take long to find the remains of what appeared to be a crashed spacecraft. Its frame was twisted and scorched, half buried in the rocky soil. Strange symbols were etched into the hull, glowing faintly despite the damage. Laura ran her gloved fingers over one of the markings, her eyes wide with fascination. "This isn't human," she whispered. "It's something else." Jake Thompson, the security officer, scanned the area cautiously, his weapon drawn. "Keep your guard up," he warned. "If whoever sent the distress signal is still alive, they might not be friendly." As they explored further, the crew discovered that the wreckage wasn't just the remains of a single ship. It seemed to be part of a larger structure buried beneath the surface. A narrow opening led downward into darkness, illuminated faintly by more of the glowing symbols. Carter hesitated, weighing the risks. Going underground could mean walking into danger, but staying above ground meant leaving potential survivors behind. "We go in," he decided, his tone firm. "But we stick together. No splitting off." The descent was slow and tense. The passageway twisted and turned unpredictably, its walls lined with the same strange symbols. Every step echoed loudly, making it hard to tell if they were truly alone. Then, without warning, a low hum filled the air, growing louder with each passing second. Lights flickered to life along the walls, revealing a massive chamber filled with advanced machinery and dormant equipment. In the center of the room stood a towering structure, a communication array unlike anything they'd ever seen. It pulsed faintly, as though alive, and emitted a soft, rhythmic beep. Megan approached it cautiously, her scanner buzzing as she analyzed its energy signature. "This thing, it's active," she said, her voice tinged with awe. "Whatever it is, it's powerful." Before anyone could respond, a sudden flash of light blinded them momentarily. When their vision cleared, they realized they weren't alone anymore. Robotic sentries had emerged from hidden alcoves, their weapons trained directly on the intruders. "Back to the ship," Carter shouted, already turning to flee. But as they ran, the realization sank in. They had triggered something far bigger than themselves. Whatever this place was, it wasn't just abandoned. And now, they might have awakened forces beyond their understanding. The crew of the Pioneer Dawn sprinted back toward the surface, their boots pounding against the metal floor of the underground facility. Behind them, the robotic sentries moved with mechanical precision, their glowing eyes tracking every step. The air was thick with tension as Captain Ryan Carter shouted orders over the comms. "Stay together. Don't let them split us up." Dr. Laura Bennett stumbled but quickly regained her footing, clutching her scanner tightly. Her mind raced with questions about the strange technology they have discovered, but survival was the only thing that mattered now. Megan Hayes led the way, her sharp eyes scanning for any route that might give them an advantage. Alex Monroe brought up the rear, glancing nervously over his shoulder at the relentless machines gaining on them. As they reached the narrow passageway leading back to the surface, Jake Thompson raised his weapon and fired a few shots to slow the sentries down. Sparks flew as the blasts hit their metallic frames, but the robots didn't stop. "These things are tough," Jake yelled, frustration evident in his voice. "We need another plan." Carter nodded, thinking fast. "Megan, is there another way out? Any vents or secondary exits?" he asked, his tone urgent. Megan tapped furiously at her wrist console, pulling up a rough map of the facility based on their earlier scans. "There's a service tunnel about 20 meters ahead," she said. "It branches off to the left. If we can reach it, we might be able to lose them." Without hesitation, the group veered into the side tunnel. It was cramped and poorly lit, forcing them to move single file. The hum of the sentries' engines grew louder as they adjusted their pursuit, their movements eerily efficient. Laura glanced back nervously, her heart pounding. "They're still coming," she whispered, though everyone already knew. The tunnel twisted sharply, and soon they found themselves in a small chamber filled with old crates and discarded equipment. Dust hung heavy in the air, making it hard to breathe even through their suits' filters. Carter motioned for everyone to take cover behind the crates. "We'll hold them here," he said, gripping his weapon tightly. "Jake, you're with me. Alex, keep working on those scanners. See if you can find a weak spot in their systems." Alex nodded, dropping to one knee as he pulled out his tools. His fingers trembled slightly, but he focused on the task at hand. Meanwhile, Carter and Jake positioned themselves near the entrance, ready to defend the group. Megan stayed close to Laura, keeping an eye on the map while trying to steady her breathing. Moments later, the first sentry appeared in the doorway, its weapons charging. Carter fired first, hitting it squarely in what looked like a sensor cluster. The machine staggered but didn't fall. Jake added his own shots, targeting the same area until the sentry finally collapsed with a deafening clang. But more were right behind it, their red eyes glowing menacingly. "We can't keep this up forever," Jake shouted, reloading his weapon. Alex suddenly spoke up, his voice tinged with excitement. "I think I've got something. Their power cores are vulnerable, but we need to hit them directly." "Do it," Carter ordered without hesitation. Working quickly, Alex rigged one of his scanning devices to emit a concentrated electromagnetic pulse. He handed it to Jake, who tossed it toward the advancing sentries. A bright flash erupted, momentarily blinding everyone. When the light faded, the robots lay motionless, their systems fried. For a brief moment, silence returned to the chamber. The crew exchanged relieved looks, but no one relaxed completely. "Let's get out of here before more show up," Carter said, leading the way back toward the exit. When they finally emerged onto the planet's surface, the desolate landscape seemed almost comforting compared to the danger below. But as they trudged back to the ship, none of them could shake the feeling that they had only scratched the surface of something far bigger and far more dangerous than they could have imagined. Back aboard the Pioneer Dawn Asterisk, the crew gathered on the bridge, their faces pale and drawn from the ordeal below. The ship's engines hummed softly as they prepared to leave the planet's surface, but no one felt safe just yet. Captain Ryan Carter stood at the center of the room, his arms crossed tightly over his chest. His sharp eyes scanned the monitors, searching for any sign of trouble. "We got lucky down there," Jake Thompson said, breaking the silence. He slumped into a chair, still gripping his weapon like he expected another attack at any moment. But those robots, they didn't look like they were built to guard junk. That place was important. Dr. Laura Bennett nodded, her mind racing with theories. "It wasn't just a random outpost," she said. "The technology we saw, It was advanced, far beyond anything humans have created. And that communication array. She trailed off, shaking her head. It wasn't sending a simple distress signal. It was something else. Megan Hayes turned away from her console, her expression tense. "I've been analyzing the energy readings from the facility," she said. "That beacon isn't just active, it's transmitting constantly. Whatever message it's sending, it's reaching deep into space." Alex Monroe let out a low whistle. "You think someone heard it?" he asked, his voice tinged with unease. "Because if whoever sent that signal is coming back, we don't want to be here when they arrive." Carter frowned, his jaw tightening. "We need to figure out what that beacon is doing, and how to shut it down," he said firmly. "If it's calling for help, fine. But if it's summoning something worse, we can't leave it running." The decision weighed heavily on everyone. They had already risked their lives once to investigate the planet, and now they faced an even greater dilemma. Leaving meant abandoning the mystery and possibly unleashing unknown dangers on the galaxy. Staying meant risking everything again, this time without knowing what horrors might emerge. As the debate continued, Megan suddenly gasped, her fingers flying across her console. "Captain, you need to see this," she said, her voice trembling. On the main screen, a series of blips appeared, moving rapidly toward their position. At first, they looked like ordinary ships, but as the sensors refined the data, the truth became clear. These vessels were massive, dwarfing the Pioneer Dawn by comparison. "They're heading straight for us," Megan said, her voice barely above a whisper. "And they're fast." Jake swore under his breath, clutching his weapon tighter. "What do we do now?" he asked, looking to Carter for guidance. Carter hesitated, his mind racing. He knew they couldn't fight whatever was coming, not with their small crew and limited weapons. But fleeing wasn't a guarantee of safety either. If the incoming ships were hostile, the Pioneer Dawn wouldn't stand a chance in open space. "We split up," Carter decided finally, his tone firm despite the gravity of the situation. "Alex, you and Laura stay behind to work on disabling the beacon. Use whatever data we collected from the facility. Megan, Jake, and I will take the ship and prepare for evacuation. If things go south, we'll come back for you." Alex opened his mouth to protest, but Laura placed a hand on his arm. "He's right," she said quietly. "We can't leave that beacon active. If we can stop it, maybe we can prevent whatever's coming." Reluctantly, Alex nodded, though fear lingered in his eyes. As the crew divided into their assigned tasks, a sense of dread settled over the ship. The countdown had begun, and none of them knew whether they would live to see its end. Outside, the massive ships drew closer, their intentions still unknown. Whatever was about to happen, the crew of the Pioneer Dawn knew one thing for certain. Their choices would determine not only their fate, but possibly the fate of countless others. The Pioneer Dawn hovered above the planet's surface, its engines idling as Captain Ryan Carter and his team prepared for what might be their final moments. On board, tension crackled like static electricity. Megan Hayes sat at the navigation console, her fingers dancing across the controls as she monitored the incoming ships. Each second brought them closer, their massive forms blotting out the stars on the view screen. "They're almost in range," Megan said, her voice tight. "If we don't move soon, they'll surround us." Carter nodded, his eyes fixed on the screen. "Get ready to jump to sublight speed if things go bad," he ordered. "But hold position for now. Let's see what they want before we run." Meanwhile, down on the planet, Alex Monroe and Dr. Laura Bennett worked feverishly inside the underground facility. The air was thick with dust, and the faint hum of the communication array filled the chamber. Alex knelt beside the towering machine, his tools spread out around him. His hands moved quickly, but frustration was etched across his face. "This thing's more complicated than I thought," Alex muttered, wiping sweat from his brow. "It's not just a beacon. It's tied into some kind of fail-safe system. If I disable it wrong, it could trigger something worse. Laura stood nearby, holding a scanner and trying to make sense of the alien symbols glowing faintly on the walls. "Take your time," she urged, though her own nerves were fraying. "We can't afford a mistake." Back aboard the ship, the first of the massive vessels came into view. Its dark hull gleamed menacingly under the dim light of the distant sun. As it approached, smaller craft began to deploy, fanning out in a coordinated formation that left no doubt about their intent: to block any escape. Jake Thompson gripped his weapon tightly, standing near the airlock with his jaw clenched. "They're here," he said grimly. "What's the plan if they board us?" Carter didn't answer immediately. Instead, he activated the ship's comms system, broadcasting a message to the lead vessel. "Unidentified ships. This is Captain Ryan Carter of the exploration vessel * Pioneer Dawn *. We are humans conducting routine operations. Please state your intentions." For a moment, there was only silence. Then, a deep, gravelly voice responded, distorted by translation software. "You have trespassed upon sacred ground. Explain yourselves." Carter exchanged a glance with Megan before responding. "We received a distress signal originating from this location. Upon investigation, we discovered an automated facility emitting a transmission. Our actions were not hostile. We seek only to understand and resolve the situation." Another pause followed, longer this time. Finally, the voice returned. "Your explanation is insufficient. Prepare for inspection." Before Carter could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. The sensors detected energy spikes from the approaching vessels, weapons powering up. Jake cursed loudly. "They're going to fire." "Hold steady," Carter barked, raising his hands in a calming gesture. "To the comms," he said, "we mean no harm. Allow us to prove our innocence." This time, the response was immediate. A single massive ship broke away from the formation, moving directly toward the Pioneer Dawn *. Its shape was jagged and intimidating, bristling with weapons and glowing with ominous energy. As it drew closer, a holographic image appeared on the view screen, a towering figure clad in obsidian armor, its face obscured by a mask that shimmered like liquid metal. "I am Commander Vraxkor of the Deathworlder Armada," the figure declared, its voice resonating with authority. "Your presence has disrupted a relic of great importance. You will justify your actions, or face annihilation." Carter swallowed hard but kept his tone steady. "Commander, we did not come here seeking conflict. We followed a signal and found evidence of advanced technology beyond our understanding. We wish to cooperate and ensure no further disruption occurs." Vraxkor tilted its head slightly, as if considering Carter's words. After a long pause, it spoke again. "You have one cycle of your Earth time to provide proof of your claims. Fail, and you will perish." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the crew in stunned silence. Megan exhaled shakily. "One cycle. That's 24 hours. What do we do now?" Carter turned to face his team, determination hardening his features. "We work fast. Alex and Laura need more time to disable the beacon. We'll keep Vraxkor occupied while they finish the job." As the countdown began, the weight of their situation settled heavily on everyone. Down on the planet, Alex and Laura worked tirelessly, knowing their efforts might be the only thing standing between survival and destruction. Above them, the Pioneer Dawn * drifted uneasily, surrounded by the looming threat of the Deathworlder Armada. For all of them, the next few hours would test their courage. The hours ticked by painfully slow as the crew of the Pioneer Dawn * scrambled to meet the Deathworlder ultimatum. On board the ship, Captain Ryan Carter paced the bridge, his mind racing through every possible scenario. The massive armada loomed outside, their ships casting long shadows over the desolate planet below. Every movement they made felt deliberate, calculated, like predators circling prey. "Megan, any updates on those vessels?" Carter asked, glancing at the navigation console. Megan Hayes sat hunched over her screen, her fingers flying across the controls. She shook her head, frustration evident in her voice. They're not moving closer, but they're not leaving either. It's like they're waiting for something. Jake Thompson leaned against the wall near the airlock, his weapon slung over his shoulder. His eyes darted between the view screen and the interior of the ship. Waiting for us to screw up, probably, he muttered. I don't trust them. Those Deathworlders look like they'd blast us without a second thought. Carter didn't respond directly. Instead, he activated the comm system again, attempting to establish contact with Commander Vraxkor. Commander, this is Captain Carter of the Pioneer Dawn *. We are cooperating fully and working to resolve the situation. Please stand down your forces while we complete our task. There was no immediate reply, only static. Then, after what felt like an eternity, Vraxkor's deep voice crackled through the speakers. Your actions will determine your fate, human. Do not test my patience. Down on the planet, Alex Monroe and Dr. Laura Bennett were making slow but steady progress inside the underground facility. The communication array hummed ominously above them, its energy readings spiking unpredictably. Alex wiped sweat from his brow as he worked, his hands trembling slightly. This thing's fighting back, he said, his voice strained. Every time I try to shut it down, it reroutes power somewhere else. It's like it's alive. Laura crouched beside him, holding up her scanner. It might be, she replied softly. Look at these patterns. They're almost organic. This isn't just machinery. It's adaptive. Alex let out a bitter laugh. Great. So we're dealing with a sentient death trap. Just what we needed. Despite the tension, both knew they couldn't afford to give up. They had one chance to disable the beacon before the Deathworlders decided humanity wasn't worth sparing. Working together, they traced the flow of energy through the system, searching for a weak point. Finally, Alex spotted something. A central node buried deep within the array. If we can overload this core, it might shut everything down, he said, pointing to the glowing sphere embedded in the machine. But if we overload it wrong, it could blow the whole facility, Laura warned, her voice tight. And us with it. We don't have a choice, Alex replied grimly. Let's do it. Back aboard the ship, Jake suddenly straightened, his eyes narrowing. Captain, we've got trouble, he said sharply. On the security monitor, a figure moved stealthily through the lower decks. Someone who shouldn't have been there. What the? Carter started, but Jake cut him off. It's me, came a familiar voice over the intercom. Security officer Jake froze, realizing the intruder was himself. No, not himself. Another version of him, carrying stolen data chips. Betrayal hit like a punch to the gut. Jake, or rather, the rogue Jake, had secretly aligned with a faction interested in the Deathworlders' tech. He intended to hand over the beacon's secrets in exchange for protection. As the traitorous Jake fled toward an escape pod, Carter shouted orders. Stop him. A chase ensued, ending with rogue Jake escaping in a stolen shuttle, leaving the rest of the crew vulnerable. With their position compromised and time running out, the crew of the Pioneer Dawn realized the stakes had never been higher. The betrayal cut deep, leaving the crew of the Pioneer Dawn reeling. Captain Ryan Carter stood on the bridge, his fists clenched as he stared at the empty space where Jake's shuttle had vanished. The stolen data chips contained critical information about the beacon, and now they were in enemy hands. We're in serious trouble, Megan Hayes said, her voice trembling. She sat at her console, frantically scanning for any sign of Jake's shuttle. If he reaches the Deathworlders, they'll know everything. They might even think we sent him. Carter took a slow breath, forcing himself to stay calm. We can't panic, he said firmly. We still have time to fix this. Alex and Laura are working on disabling the beacon. That's our priority. But doubt lingered in everyone's minds. Without the data, they had no leverage. If Commander Vraxkor decided they were a threat, the Deathworlder Armada would crush them without hesitation. Down on the planet, Alex Monroe and Dr. Laura Bennett were unaware of the chaos unfolding above. Their focus was entirely on the glowing core embedded in the communication array. The machine pulsed erratically, its energy levels climbing dangerously high. Sparks flew as Alex worked, his tools sparking against the alien metal. "This thing's unstable," Alex muttered, sweat dripping down his face. "If we don't shut it down soon, it's going to blow." Laura nodded, her eyes glued to her scanner. "I'm reading massive power surges. It's like the beacon knows we're trying to stop it." Alex hesitated, glancing at her. "What if we can't? What if this is it?" Laura didn't answer immediately. Instead, she placed a hand on his shoulder. "We don't have the luxury of giving up," she said quietly. "If we fail, it's not just us. It's everyone out there. We have to try." With renewed determination, Alex turned back to the core. He rerouted the last of the energy flows, setting up a controlled overload. His hands moved quickly, but carefully. One wrong move, and they'd both be vaporized. Meanwhile, aboard the Pioneer Dawn Carter made a desperate decision. If the Deathworlders wouldn't listen to reason, maybe they'd respond to action. Activating the comms system, he hailed Commander Vraxgor once more. "Commander, we've uncovered evidence that your technology has been compromised," he said, choosing his words carefully. "One of our crew members has betrayed us and flowed with sensitive data. We believe he intends to sell it to hostile factions." The response came swiftly. Vraxgor's voice crackled over the speakers, colder than ever. "Explain yourself, human. Your lies will not save you." "It's not a lie," Carter insisted. "We're willing to share what we know about your tech and how to protect it. If you help us neutralize the threat, together we can prevent further damage." For a moment, there was silence. Then Vraxgor spoke again. "You have little credibility, but I am intrigued by your offer. Prove your worth, or perish." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the crew holding their breath. Had they bought themselves more time, or sealed their fate? Back on the planet, Alex finished his preparations. "Ready?" he asked Laura, his voice tight with tension. She nodded, stepping back to give him space. With one final adjustment, Alex triggered the overload sequence. The core flared brightly, bathing the chamber in blinding light. "Now," Alex shouted, grabbing Laura's arm. They sprinted toward the exit as alarms blared behind them. The ground shook violently, debris raining down from the ceiling. Behind them, the facility began to collapse, the beacon's power consuming itself in a spectacular display of destruction. As they burst into the open air, the Pioneer Dawn descended to retrieve them. Carter's voice crackled over their earpieces. "Move fast. We're under attack." Above, the Deathworlder ships had begun firing warning shots, testing the humans' resolve. The crew of the Pioneer Dawn knew their mission wasn't over, but for now, they had survived another round. The Pioneer Dawn lifted off the planet's surface just as the underground facility collapsed in a fiery explosion behind them. Alex Monroe and Dr. Laura Bennett stumbled onto the bridge, their suits covered in dust and their faces pale with exhaustion. Captain Ryan Carter didn't waste time asking questions. His eyes were fixed on the view screen, where the Deathworlder Armada loomed larger than ever. "They're firing again," Megan Hayes shouted, her hands flying across the controls as energy blasts streaked past the ship. The Pioneer Dawn rocked violently, throwing everyone off balance. "Shields are holding. For now," Jake Thompson called out from his station, though his voice betrayed his worry. "But we can't take much more of this." Carter gripped the edge of his chair, his mind racing. He had gambled everything on Vraxgor's curiosity, but now it seemed they might pay the price for underestimating the Deathworlders' ruthlessness. "Hail them again," he ordered. "Tell them the beacon is destroyed. We've done what they wanted." Megan nodded and opened a channel. "Commander Vraxgor, this is Captain Carter. The communication array has been neutralized. There is no further threat to your technology. The response was immediate and unexpected. Instead of another barrage of weapons fire, the massive ships ceased their attack and formed a tight perimeter around the Pioneer Dawn *. Moments later, Vraxkor's holographic image appeared on the screen once more. His obsidian armor gleamed menacingly, but there was something new in his posture. Caution, perhaps, or even curiosity. "You have acted boldly," Vraxkor said, his deep voice resonating through the ship. "Few would dare approach us, let alone destroy one of our relics. Yet you claim ignorance of its purpose." "We're explorers, not invaders," Carter replied firmly. "We followed a signal and found something far beyond our understanding. Our actions were meant to prevent harm, not cause it." Vraxkor tilted his head slightly, studying the humans before him. "Your words carry weight, human, but trust must be earned. You will allow my forces to board your vessel and verify your claims." Carter hesitated. Allowing the Deathworlders aboard was risky. They could easily overpower the crew and seize control of the ship. But refusing would mean certain destruction. Finally, he nodded. "Agreed. But know this, we come in peace." Vraxkor gave a curt nod. "See that you do." Minutes later, the airlock hissed open, and a squad of Deathworlder soldiers stepped onto the Pioneer Dawn *. They were towering figures clad in black armor, their movements precise and intimidating. Each carried advanced weaponry, and their glowing eyes scanned the ship with cold efficiency. One of them, clearly the leader, approached Carter and held up a scanning device. "Show us your data logs," he demanded. Laura stepped forward cautiously, holding out her tablet. "Here's everything we recorded during our investigation," she said, her voice steady despite her fear. "You'll see we were trying to disable the beacon, not exploit it." The Deathworlder commander reviewed the data silently, his expression unreadable. After several tense minutes, he turned to Vraxkor, who observed the exchange via a live feed. "Their records align with their story," he reported. "They appear to have acted without malice." Vraxkor's hologram flickered briefly before responding. "Very well. Humanity has shown potential. For now, you are spared." Relief washed over the crew, though none dared celebrate openly. The Deathworlders completed their inspection quickly, then withdrew back to their ships. As the armada began to disperse, Carter exhaled deeply, sinking into his chair. "That was too close," he muttered. Alex shook his head, still shaken. "I can't believe they actually listened. Those guys don't strike me as the forgiving type." "They're not," Megan added quietly. "We got lucky. Or maybe Vraxkor saw something in us worth sparing." Whatever the reason, the Pioneer Dawn * was finally free to leave. As the ship limped away from the planet, battered but intact, the crew reflected on what they had endured. They had faced betrayal, danger, and forces far beyond their comprehension, and somehow they had survived. But as they gazed out at the stars ahead, each of them knew one thing for certain: space was vast, unpredictable, and full of mysteries. And while they had escaped this time, the universe always had more challenges waiting. The Pioneer Dawn * drifted through the silence of space, its hull battered and scarred from the encounter with the Deathworlder armada. The crew sat in quiet exhaustion, their bodies weary but their minds still racing. Captain Ryan Carter leaned back in his chair on the bridge, staring at the view screen where the massive ships had once surrounded them. Now only empty stars filled the void. "We made it," Megan Hayes said softly, breaking the silence. Her hands rested on the navigation console, trembling slightly as the adrenaline began to wear off. "I can't believe we actually survived that." Carter nodded, though his expression remained somber. "Survived, yes, but at a cost." His voice was heavy with regret as he thought about Alex Monroe's sacrifice. During the final moments aboard the planet, Alex had stayed behind to manually overload the beacon's core, ensuring its destruction. His last words over the comms, "Get out of here," still echoed in Carter's mind. Dr. Laura Bennett sat quietly in the corner of the bridge, her head bowed. She had been closest to Alex, both professionally and personally, and the weight of his loss hit her hardest. Tears streaked her face beneath her helmet visor, but she didn't try to hide them. None of them could afford to pretend they were okay. They had all seen too much, risked too much, and lost too much. Jake Thompson paced near the airlock, his weapon slung loosely over his shoulder. His betrayal earlier had nearly doomed them all, but instead of anger, he felt only shame. "I messed up," he admitted finally, stopping to look at Carter. "If I hadn't let Rogue Jake get away with the data, maybe we wouldn't have had to deal with the Deathworlders at all." Carter sighed, rubbing his temples. "We don't have time for blame right now. What's done is done. We need to focus on what comes next." As if on cue, the ship shuddered slightly, a reminder that the Pioneer Dawn was far from fully operational. Alex's quick thinking before his death had kept the engines running just long enough to escape the planet, but the damage was extensive. Without repairs, they wouldn't make it back to Federation space. Megan turned to Carter, her face pale. "Captain, we're running low on fuel and life support systems are failing. If we don't find help soon." She trailed off, unable to finish the sentence. Carter clenched his jaw, knowing the stakes. He glanced at the star charts displayed on the main screen. There was a faint glimmer of hope, a small outpost located several light years away. It wasn't much, but it might be enough to patch up the ship and send a distress signal to the Federation. "Set course for the outpost," he ordered. "It's our best shot." Megan hesitated, then nodded. "Aye, sir. Plotting the route now." As the ship changed course, Laura stood up slowly, wiping her eyes. "Alex gave us a chance," she said quietly, her voice steady despite the grief. "He didn't hesitate when it mattered most. We owe it to him to keep going, to survive." Her words hung in the air, resonating with everyone. Even Jake straightened, his usual arrogance replaced by something closer to resolve. "She's right," he said. "We've come this far. We can't quit now." For the first time since leaving the planet, a sense of purpose returned to the crew. They worked together silently, tending to the ship's wounds and preparing for the journey ahead. Each task, no matter how small, became an act of defiance against the dangers they had faced and the losses they had endured. Hours passed in tense quiet as the Pioneer Dawn limped toward the distant outpost. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, indifferent to the struggles of those who dared to explore them. Inside, the crew clung to one another, bound by shared hardship and the unspoken promise to honor Alex's memory. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Megan spoke up. "Captain, we're approaching the coordinates. Sensors are picking up. Structures. It looks like the outpost is still active." Carter exhaled deeply, a flicker of relief crossing his face. "Good work, everyone. Let's see if we can catch a break for once." As they drew closer, the dim lights of the outpost came into view, glowing faintly against the dark backdrop of space. For now, survival was within reach, but none of them forgot how fragile that survival truly was. Space always demanded a price, and they had already paid dearly. Yet even in the face of despair, they found strength in each other, and in the hope that tomorrow might bring a new beginning. "We made it," Megan Hayes said softly, breaking the silence. Her hands rested on the navigation console, trembling slightly as the adrenaline began to wear off. "I can't believe we actually survived that." Carter nodded, though his expression remained somber. "Survived, yes, but at a cost." His voice was heavy with regret as he thought about Alex Monroe's sacrifice. During the final moments aboard the planet, Alex had stayed behind to manually overload the beacon's core, ensuring its destruction. His last words over the comms, "Get out of here," still echoed in Carter's mind. The Pioneer Dawn drifted through the silence of space, It all battered and scarred from the encounter with the Deathworlder Armada. The crew sat in quiet exhaustion, their bodies weary but their minds still racing. Captain Ryan Carter leaned back in his chair on the bridge, staring at the view screen where the massive ships had once surrounded them. Now only empty stars filled the void. "We made it," Megan Hayes said softly, breaking the silence. Her hands rested on the navigation console, trembling slightly as the adrenaline began to wear off. "I can't believe we actually survived that." Carter nodded, though his expression remained somber. "Survived, yes, but at a cost." His voice was heavy with regret as he thought about Alex Monroe's sacrifice. During the final moments aboard the planet, Alex had stayed behind to manually overload the beacon's core, ensuring its destruction. His last words over the comms, "Get out of here," still echoed in Carter's mind. Dr. Laura Bennett sat quietly in the corner of the bridge, her head bowed. She had been closest to Alex, both professionally and personally, and the weight of his loss hit her hardest. Tears streaked her face beneath her helmet visor, but she didn't try to hide them. None of them could afford to pretend they were okay. They had all seen too much, risked too much, and lost too much. Jake Thompson paced near the airlock, his weapon slung loosely over his shoulder. His betrayal earlier had nearly doomed them all. But instead of anger, he felt only shame. "I messed up," he admitted finally, stopping to look at Carter. "If I hadn't let Rogue Jake get away with the data, maybe we wouldn't have had to deal with the Deathworlders at all." Carter sighed, rubbing his temples. "We don't have time for blame right now. What's done is done. We need to focus on what comes next." As if on cue, the ship shuddered slightly, a reminder that the Pioneer Dawn was far from fully operational. Alex's quick thinking before his death had kept the engines running just long enough to escape the planet, but the damage was extensive. Without repairs, they wouldn't make it back to Federation space. Megan turned to Carter, her face pale. "Captain, we're running low on fuel and life support systems are failing. If we don't find help soon..." She trailed off, unable to finish the sentence. Carter clenched his jaw, knowing the stakes. He glanced at the star charts displayed on the main screen. There was a faint glimmer of hope, a small outpost located several light years away. It wasn't much, but it might be enough to patch up the ship and send a distress signal to the Federation. "Set course for the outpost," he ordered. "It's our best shot." Megan hesitated, then nodded. "Aye, sir. Plotting the route now." As the ship changed course, Laura stood up slowly, wiping her eyes. "Alex gave us a chance," she said quietly, her voice steady despite the grief. "He didn't hesitate when it mattered most. We owe it to him to keep going, to survive." Her words hung in the air, resonating with everyone. Even Jake straightened, his usual arrogance replaced by something closer to resolve. "She's right," he said. "We've come this far. We can't quit now." For the first time since leaving the planet, a sense of purpose returned to the crew. They worked together silently, tending to the ship's wounds and preparing for the journey ahead. Each task, no matter how small, became an act of defiance against the dangers they had faced and the losses they had endured. Hours passed in tense quiet as the Pioneer Dawn limped toward the distant outpost. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, indifferent to the struggles of those who dared to explore them. Inside, the crew clung to one another, bound by shared hardship and the unspoken promise to honor Alex's memory. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Megan spoke up. "Captain, we're approaching the coordinates. Sensors are picking up. Structures. It looks like the outpost is still active." Carter exhaled deeply, a flicker of relief crossing his face. "Good work, everyone. Let's see if we can catch a break for once." As they drew closer, the dim lights of the outpost came into view, glowing faintly against the dark backdrop of space. For now, survival was within reach, but none of them forgot how fragile that survival truly was. Space always demanded a price, and they had already paid dearly. Yet even in the face of despair, they found strength in each other, and in the hope that tomorrow might bring a new beginning. The Pioneer Dawn docked at the outpost with a groan, its damaged hull scraping against the docking clamps. The small station was old and worn, its walls lined with patches from years of repairs. Still, it was a sanctuary compared to the chaos the crew had endured. Captain Ryan Carter stepped off the ship first, his boots echoing on the metal floor as he surveyed their surroundings. A lone figure approached them, an older man in a patched-up uniform, his face weathered but kind. "You folks look like you've been through hell," he said, his voice gruff but warm. "Name's Harold. I run this place. What happened to your ship?" Carter exchanged a glance with his crew before replying. "Long story. We need repairs and supplies. Can you help us?" Harold nodded slowly, his eyes scanning the battered vessel behind them. "I'll do what I can. But fair warning, it won't be pretty or fast." It took days of relentless work to get the Pioneer Dawn back into shape. The crew pitched in alongside Harold and his small team of technicians, patching leaks, replacing burned-out circuits, and refueling the engines. Each task brought them closer to leaving, but it also gave them time to reflect on everything they'd been through. Dr. Laura Bennett spent hours in the outpost's tiny lab, analyzing data collected from the planet. She didn't speak much, but her focus was unshakable. For her, understanding the beacon and Alex's sacrifice was a way to honor him. Megan Hayes worked tirelessly on recalibrating the ship's navigation systems, ensuring they wouldn't drift off course again. Jake Thompson threw himself into manual labor, carrying heavy equipment and welding broken panels, as if trying to make up for his earlier betrayal. On the final night before departure, the crew gathered in the outpost's common room. It was a cramped space filled with mismatched furniture, but it felt cozy after weeks of tension. Harold joined them, setting down mugs of steaming coffee on the table. "You've earned this," he said with a smile. "Take a moment to breathe." For the first time in what felt like forever, the crew allowed themselves to relax. They shared stories, not just about the mission, but about their lives before the Pioneer Dawn *. Laura spoke fondly of Alex, recalling his dry humor and endless curiosity. Even Jake opened up, admitting how much he admired the crew's resilience despite his own mistakes. Captain Carter watched them quietly, feeling a sense of pride. These people weren't just colleagues, they were family now, forged by fire and bound by survival. When the conversation turned to their next steps, Carter cleared his throat. "Once we're back in Federation space, we'll report everything that happened. The beacon, the Deathworlders, and Alex's sacrifice. Humanity needs to know what's out there." The others nodded, their expressions serious but determined. They understood the risks of exploring the unknown, but they also knew the rewards: knowledge, discovery, and the chance to push the boundaries of what was possible. The next morning, the Pioneer Dawn launched from the outpost, its systems humming steadily for the first time in weeks. As they entered open space, Carter set a course for home. On the view screen, the stars stretched endlessly, shimmering with promise. Somewhere out there were mysteries waiting to be uncovered, and dangers yet unseen. But for now, the crew had survived. Megan broke the silence with a soft laugh. "Do you think anyone will believe our story when we get back?" Laura smiled faintly. "Probably not. But that's okay. We know what happened." Jake leaned back in his seat, staring at the stars. "And maybe someday, someone else will go out there and find answers where we couldn't." As the ship sailed onward, the weight of their journey lingered. But so did hope. They had faced death and emerged stronger, carrying the lessons of their ordeal with them. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. For now, though, they lived to fight another day, forever changed by the emergency SOS that called the Deathworlder Armada.